You're listening to the Martial Arts Lifestyle Podcast, where each week we have a conversation with everyday martial arts practitioners. From the first motivation to train, martial arts enriches our lives and becomes a lifestyle. Welcome to the individual stories of those martial artists living that lifestyle. You are listening to the abbreviated version. For those of you checking this out on YouTube, please hit the like and subscribe buttons. Full-length versions of this podcast can be subscribed to at our Patreon page, is www.patreon.com/malmag. Or individual full-length episodes can be purchased at our Gumroad page at malmag.gumroad.com. Before we begin this week's program, I would like to remind you to check out martialartslifestylemagazine.com to see articles on the martial arts. Click on the store tab to find products for the practice of Southeast Asian martial arts, featuring Timmy B's brand sticks. Check out the courses tab, currently featuring a course on the Dos Manos method of the Filipino martial arts. Also check out our Places to Train page, featuring top quality martial art academies from around the world. And of course, check out our events page for seminars and events coming up around the world. To see your school listed in our Places to Train page or your event on our events calendar, contact us at malmagonline@gmail.com. This week, I get on Zoom and I connect with New York City again, and I talk with my good friend Louis Hernandez. We talk about how he got into martial arts, how he took up judo, karate, and fencing in college, meeting Nick Sakoulis and getting involved in the Inosanto family of martial arts, how he used martial arts to help at-risk kids in the public school system as a teacher, how he relates Tango to his martial arts practice, and much more. Sit back and enjoy. Welcome to the Martial Arts Lifestyle Podcast. And today I'm connecting to the state of New York again, as I've done with a few people in the past. And I've been looking forward to this conversation for a little bit because I really enjoy my time with this gentleman when he comes into town. So someone I actually look up to as a fellow instructor under Guru Dan Inosanto. And when you roll into town, you always have seems to be a good group that comes with you, not maybe specifically with you, but at the same time, and it's always a fun time to have you around. Let me introduce Mr. Louis Hernandez to everyone, and thank you for coming on here. We really appreciate that.
Well, thank you. I'm honored.
Absolutely. Well, let's just jump in kind of to the origin story. How did you get involved in training martial arts?
I thought about that question because I figured you'd be asking it. So I can't give a specific event or time or introduction or something. I mean, I was always interested in it as a teenager. I wasn't introduced to it, by my parents in the neighborhood, anything like that. I was always athletic. I played a lot of basketball, in high school and stuff like that. But I did see one or two characters in the neighborhood. I grew up in El Barrio in, Manhattan, who were karate guys, and for some reason their fame was more connected to like these guys you don't mess with, like bullies. They were really bullies, if you look at it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so the type of guy you stay away from or whatever. But I did say, man, like these guys, and then Bruce Lee was coming around. I used to like old movie, black and white movies. I don't know how old you are, but I used to watch.
I'll be 56, but I do like black and white movies. Being
well, 70. I'm 73, so I used to love it. I used to love Mr. Moto. Peter.
Oh yeah, okay.
Mr. Moto, and he would do these Aku Jiu-Jitsu things, like throw people around, and it was like, oh my God, I'm really attracted to that. So I was always drawn to that type of martial art, or fighting, So technically, I didn't take my first class, official club, you want to call it a martial arts class, till college. Judo, took judo, karate, and fencing. I see fencing now as also type of martial arts.
Right.
And I was pretty good at the fencing thing. I liked it, but in terms of like really following it up and being, how would I put it, serious about it, it took a number of years after that. So I don't know if you want me to get into that or just follow your.
Yeah, let's definitely get there. I just want to ask you, where did you go to college?
I went to City. I'm saying it right, City College, for my undergrad, and I used to call it Silly cottage.
And this is in New York?
Yeah, New York. Undergrad. It took me 5 years to graduate because I was floundering around, and then when they put me on probation, I got serious. I majored in Puerto Rican studies, believe it or not, and I took Italian and I minored in phys ed, physical education.
Wow.
So that was my undergrad.
I mean, it's for college you're calling silly. They've got a lot there. I mean, you've got, these three martial art things. That's pretty good for a college. And then, I mean, this whole field of study is pretty broad. I love it.
Well, I didn't know what I was going to do with this major in Puerto Rican. Somebody asked me, "What are you going to become, a Puerto Rican?"
You're like,
But
well, I had that without the degree, right?
well, yeah, but I became a better, more informed Puerto Rican after that because I
Right.
participated in this training program because they needed bilingual teachers in the city.
Okay.
That's after the Aspira consent decree. They were recruiting, teachers who were bilingual, and I did this thing. So I transferred that into the field of teaching. You
Hmm.
know, so I worked as a teacher first, and then I got a what do you call a master's in bilingual special ed. You
Oh,
know,
wow.
yeah, and then later on I got a second master's in bilingual counseling until finally, and I didn't plan this stuff, and I sort of match it up to martial arts because you start something and then all of a sudden, oh, you get to this door and the door opens. Oh, wait a minute. So all of a sudden I'm completing a doctoral studies. So
Wow.
it was Dr. Hernandez, even though my wife said, you got to flaunt it, say,
Yeah, I had no idea.
yeah.
You're a very intelligent person. That is obvious to me. But yeah, but I had no idea that you two masters and a PhD. Pretty good for a guy that was on probation in college. And when I'm
Right.
talking, I already love this story. This is a great
Well, I
story.
didn't even give you my what do you call it? My blue period growing up in a
Yeah,
that blue period is part of the foundation too. So
yeah,
we get to it, we'll get to it. If not,
yeah.
yeah.
No, let's definitely talk about that. That sounds great.
Well, the blue period.
Hmm.
Well,
Absolutely.
Picasso had his different periods, right?
Right, right.
So I called it my blue period because it was like I was hanging out with really some.
Shady characters.
Yeah, man. And I was just thinking about it now. Like at least 90% of those characters I hung out with, I used to bring up to my apartment because my mother said, "Okay, better you hang out here than out on the street." They're gone.
Right.
They're gone. And it's interesting because I saw your podcast. What do you call it? Invitation. It didn't say
Hmm.
martial arts. It says martial arts style lifestyle,
Lifestyle. Uh huh.
and it's about lifestyle. So for
Right.
martial arts, it's not just kicking ass. It's really this lifestyle that becomes part of you, and nobody has to tell you, "Hey, do this." You do
Right.
it because you're self motivated.
Hmm.
And I equate that to all the stuff that I've done. I still do my bike rides and these excursions and stuff. And nobody's telling me, "Oh, you got to do this." I do because if I don't do it, I go crazy. Um,
Right.
so anyway, that blue period, I almost didn't make it, but I did make it, and that served as a strong foundation for my
Right.
work that I ended up doing in El Barrio. Um, I don't know where else you want me to
Well,
tie in, but I can continue, whatever.
what do you think attracted you to the types of characters you were hanging around with at that time?
Adventure
Okay. All right.
or misadventure.
Misadventure. Okay. Which is
Yeah.
still adventure. It's still
Yeah.
adventure. Yeah.
Yeah. It's yeah, it was like, like I don't know, like a form of rebellion or just something outside of the box. And meanwhile, my poor mother was always, worried about me. I've even written some little vignettes. I might publish it, because I don't know how and then how in AA they talk about people, places, and things. So
Right.
I finally changed my lifestyle, the blue period.
Hmm.
I had to change people, places, and things, and
Right.
and I changed it for something more productive, healthy, and growth promoting, and also like getting out of myself. Like really help. A special ed teacher is really working with others.
Yeah. Yeah. No, this is an amazing. I mean, difference. If you think about it. So, what made you then make that decision to change? I mean, what was there something that sparked you that you went, okay, this is not the right direction, this is not the right crowd, and I'm going to go another direction?
They're called bottoms, reaching bottoms. And I say
Oh,
bottoms, plural, because I had multiple. Because you can reach a bottom and say, oh my God, this is the worst thing ever. And then there's a trap door because you think you get a little, what's the word, complacent. And all of a
yeah.
sudden, trap door, and there's a deeper hole back down there. And so one of the ways that I was always attracted to physical stuff. I used to do my biking in El Barrio and all that stuff. But then eventually I went across the United States and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's something Guru Dan brings up every time. I was
Yeah,
going to
well,
ask you
well, when
about this.
he met me, I rode from Canada
Uh-huh.
to Thai camp, but I before that I had done the coast of California several times. I
Wow.
across the United States. I've done Colorado, from my house in Queens all the way to Maine. So
Wow,
it's
that's distance. That's some
and
distance
that's
on a bicycle.
perseverance. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what was the original question? What got me out? Oh, out of
Yeah,
the,
what was there a particular moment or something that
it
happened
was
that made you change?
it was a collection at the
Okay.
a collection, and I was getting counseling. It was a collection. It was like like finally like I couldn't do it no more. I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. So
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, that's understandable. Yeah.
understandable. And I don't know how much you probably interviewed other people with similar situation in the back. I'm not giving the whole thing, but it was a life change, and part of it was what am I doing that's gonna fill that void and give me the adrenaline rush and give me the purpose and martial arts fit quite well.
Right.
Mm. Which martial arts did I start out with? Well, I was always attracted to Tai Chi.
Okay.
Tai Chi, I was really attracted to that. I used to watch these people do this, like really like a meditative flow. And
Mm-hmm.
man, so in Queens College, which is where I did my second master's, they had Tai Chi classes, and I signed up for it. And I would go every morning. I take my kids, and they would do swimming. I had kids by this time. Uh, then during that time, it took me 2 years to learn the form. I learned the Northern Yang form, and I
Okay.
used to utilize that when I would go to work. So I drive to the city through traffic and be all jacked up, from driving.
Yes, that's understandable to anyone who
Yeah,
drives in a big
and
city.
and meanwhile, and meanwhile, I'm a crisis. I'm dealing with crisis intervention, so I would do
Right.
the form. It take me half an hour to do the form. And it was really helpful. So it was more like for meditative purpose. I didn't know the martial arts uh, application of it,
Mm-hmm.
you know. But at the same time, I also was introduced to Wing Chun, and I
Oh, okay.
and I took Wing Chun with this guy, this white guy, and he studied in China. He spoke Chinese, and he wrote calligraphics, and he taught Qigong also. I was introduced to Qigong, so I was
Wow.
really introduced to that, and I said, man. But he would come and go to China, come back. So someday to be one of the disciples,
Mm-hmm.
teaching. So I think those were the first. I mean, besides the judo and the what do you call the judo and karate,
Mm-hmm.
with the Wing Chun, I really got the life. I took it in like all. Like I said, oh, I lost weight. I started eating, broccoli at the learning iron palm training I mean, really, it was like just I was obsessed with this thing.
Mm-hmm.
And he was the type of guy that would, how sometimes some schools you don't cross this secret, barrier till you've been here 10 years and you spend
Right.
$15,000 or whatever. So the
Right.
dummy didn't touch it, and the broadsword, none of that. But I was always, oh my God, I gotta get there. How do I get there? And so that was a really the serious entry into martial art, the world of martial arts. Not the judo,
Mm-hmm.
not the course I took in judo or karate. And then it was followed up by what do you call Aikido? I did Aikido. I was really
Oh,
always
wow.
I always was attracted to Aikido. So I did the Hambu style for a while. Then I moved and then got into this other guy was teaching, what do you call it? The Nihan Goshin, which
Mm-hmm.
introduced strikes and stuff. And I said, oh man, I'm gonna go here and take, 5 classes a week, 10, 5 days a week, da, da, da. Man, I used to go to that class. One night I would stay double class and I'd go home. And it wasn't that I was exhausted. I know what exhaustion was. I can get on my bike and do 100 miles and I'm exhausted.
Right. Right.
But this shit was I get under the shower was my whole body because half the class is you're bouncing on the floor.
Right. Yeah.
You're the uke. The art of ukemi was like, oh my God, this is like killing me. But I but I think I eventually I got a pretty good rank, but then I severed my ACL. So
Oh, wow.
Aikido, so I got reconstructive knee surgery. But in the meantime, I would pass this school that had Bruce Lee, JKD, and then Kali.
Hmm.
I said, I said, nah, JK, Jeet Kune Do, what the hell is that? But then after I severed my ACL, and I stopped once at that school and I saw them playing with the sticks. I said, oh, it really looks pretty good. But after the ACL things, I can't do Aikido anymore. So I did stop. And that school was Nick Sakulos. You know Nick Sakulos.
Of course. Yeah.
Right. So I went there and I said, okay, maybe I can just do the six. I can't jump around, you know. So I joined the school. And and the school wasn't just about the sticks, it was everything else. All of a sudden we're doing and I went there with my Wing Chun thing, like doing
Uh-huh.
man, they were kicking the Jung Fan guys and the Muay Thai guys, they were kicking my ass. This wasn't working. This type of thing like that
Right.
was not working. I said, "Oh man, did I make a mistake here, man?" Like that. But I stuck it through. I tend to have perseverance, so I'll show up.
I think that sounds very evident with everything that we've talked about in a brief short time. That perseverance is certainly something that is in you. Yeah.
So yeah, so that started Nick, and then at the same time, started taking. I became I don't know crazy. I took samurai swordmanship, so Iron Jutsu and Kenjutsu.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Very traditional, the Hakama and all that. And eventually, when I broke my clavicle, I got up to brown belt, broke my clavicle because doing stunts that should be for kids, running and they're throwing blades at you, and you got to run, roll and
Oh, wow.
without the katana coming and stabbing you in the neck,
It's
all
like
that.
ninja training school here.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it was. I said, oh, what am I doing, man? So, but I stood with Nick. I stayed with the school, and that's when I got a really thorough introduction to Philippine martial arts.
Hmm.
And I said, man, this thing is deep. This is really, I mean, it's more than just this stick thing. I said, oh my God, look, everything it has all the components, striking and kicking and the Aku Jiu-Jitsu part, Salat and all that. I mean, man, this is like, and then it was very rich, very rich. And then you're introduced to one particular little system within the system, and there's like it's one of like 100, whatever. And I said,
Hmm.
oh my God, this is like. And then the first time I went to was what's his name at the Guru Santa. I didn't know what the hell was going on. I said, oh my.
Yes.
I showed up every year, and I was the type of guy that I would get to the school next school and an hour or two before and work out, and then
Hmm.
go to the class. I would be sweating, and he said, "Man, where were you?" I said, "Yeah, getting prepared for the class." It's
I love that.
every year he would acknowledge people. Say, I would get an award, hard worker, and it wasn't because I was kicking ass or really outstanding in the art or whatever. It was just I was busting my ass, you know,
Perseverance. Yeah.
perseverance. And then he later on when he switched to school, he got it across the street, and I would go every year. He nominated me to be an instructor. I think it was more,
Wow.
yeah, I think it was more because I was a teacher and I was a special ed teacher, and I love teaching. And I was thinking about the metaphors attached to martial arts, particularly to Guru Inosanto's, philosophy.
Hmm.
Um, you know, he calls it what is it? I call it take what you need and leave the rest. Absorb what is useful, discard the rest.
Uh-huh.
So I use that like in college when I teach as a professor, in the college. I've learned different theoretical approaches in working with clients, but I'm looking for a clone. You got to figure out what matches you, your background, and your client.
Right. Right.
The other metaphor is the JKD practitioner adapts. So as a counselor, as a mental health counselor, as a therapist, you try to force this theory or this approach or this technique on your client. The client teaches you what approach. But
Right.
yeah, so it's like, if I go there, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do this technique, and it's almost like, okay, based on what is being presented, then you adapt.
Hmm. Hmm.
And so I like that metaphor a lot. I've even shared it with my interns, because I taught interns, on the graduate level who go into
Hmm.
the school system. So I apply some of these little. I mean, I have other metaphors, but I like those in particular. And I always tell them, take what you need and leave the rest. You know.
Right.
So anyway, I'm giving you a lot there.
Yeah, no, it's good. There's a lot I can dive in there and dive into it, and I love the last bit that you were talking about. We'll definitely get into that, but I want to go back a little bit to you said when you were kind of doing Wing Chun, Tai Chi, and the Aikido, you were working as a crisis counselor. So was this for adults or for kids? I know you eventually got into the school system and taught.
Why I started out in the school system. I started out
Okay.
as a bilingual special ed with emotionally certified emotionally disturbed kids.
Oh
So
wow,
yeah, the ED they called it back then, or they called it NIEH, neurologically impaired, emotionally handicapped. They also
wow.
some of them also
And
have,
what when was this in the 1970s or
I began in
1980s?
77. I began in 77.
77. Oh, wow.
So
And
I
they
worked,
had that kind of program then.
yeah,
Oh,
within
that's
the school
fantastic.
system, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's fantastic.
So and then I moved into when I got my second master's, I moved into from teach as teacher to a counselor.
Hmm.
So so I was always doing, and the majority of the kids that I work with age wise was junior high school level.
Okay. That's a rough time for kids.
Yeah, that's so adolescent, early adolescent.
Yeah.
Um, and I did work in institutional settings. So I worked in Bellevue Hospital. I worked in places where they were what call it day treatment programs or in
Hmm.
institutionalized group homes and stuff like that. So the crisis range, they range from you have to be like you become hyper vigilant. Like you
Hmm.
sense that somebody's already their tolerance level is up to here, and all of a sudden they're gonna grab a pencil. So I became like hyper vigilant. So immediately I would scan the scene. So this pencil goes in my pocket, this ruler, whatever,
Yeah. Yeah.
up and okay, and then trying to, like restrain without, without causing harm and some of these kids were way bigger than me,
Right.
so some of that judo stuff helped a little bit, actually, uh,
Hmm.
because I could take them down and then maybe apply some type of leg lock. I didn't know what I was doing back then, but I had to do something because some of these kids would really try to hurt each other.
Wow. So
So
were these kids, were these people actually diagnosed with something already, or it was just, and you knew what that was because they
no,
gave
no,
you
they were
information,
they
or
were certified. They were certified. So so you're a teacher in a classroom and you notice that so and so is having this problem and it's chronic,
right?
behavior wise, or tantrums, or maybe they're not learning or whatever. So you make a referral.
And this concludes the abbreviated version of the podcast. Please consider supporting the program by going to www.patreon.com/malmag and subscribing to the show. You can also purchase this individual episode or any individual episode at our Gumroad page. That's malmag.gumroad.com. Thank you for listening to this episode with Louis Hernandez. Coming up next week, I connect to Down Under, Australia for the first time, and I talk with my good friend Chan Griffin. Our Malmag online store at martialartslifestylemagazine.com has a full selection of Timmy B's brand sticks for FMA and Krabiker Bong. Timmy B's brand now selling in Japan as well. Beautiful Timmy B's brand shirts and Dos Manos shirts are available. We also have sarongs, malongs, and wooden training knives. An online course in the Dos Manos method for FMA is available under the Courses tab. More courses coming soon. Check out the Places to Train tab to find schools near you, and click on the events calendar page to see what seminars and events are happening all around the world. And of course, visit our main page for articles on the martial arts. Music by Arthur J. Martial Arts Lifestyle Magazine and the Martial Arts Lifestyle Podcast are trademarked and copyrighted by TNT LLC.